Oh my God, we are live. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome.
Hey.
Welcome to Crossing the Streams, the greatest show ranked #1 in the world of TV, film, review shows. We're so excited. Thank you for that. I received a letter recently from a boy in Topeka, Kansas, and it says, "Dear Jeff, thank you for crossing the streams." That was it. It was very short. It was very short, but it's that he took the time to
It's better
read.
than some of our reviews.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
his
is.
Apple iPod podcast reviews are very similar.
Yeah.
Thanks. 5 stars.
Yeah, this just came in. Fire emoji 100. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you, clickbait 100. So as always, and let me read this right from the actual website itself, so you know it's real. We are ranked #1 in 18 states, and we are ranked in the top 5 in the other 61 of them. So we're pretty good.
Ooh,
United States,
nice.
we're ranked pretty high,
Congratulations.
and
Nice.
charting as always in over 1,700 countries, which is nice. And most of them speak English, so they don't even have to translate. So anyway, we're so
Classic
excited.
Jeff.
We're so excited that you're here crossing the streams with us. We're going to do our theme song, and Brian's going to kick it off. Go ahead, Brian.
Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. That's just between you and me.
Scott.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, Bob, and there's Howard. They call it crossing the streams.
All right, take it home, Ron.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we cross those streams. We cross those streams. We cross those
We cross
streams.
the streams.
That's
the
That's
way
the way we do it here.
Cross
We
the
cross the
Da-da-da. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Well done, boys.
Oh, Lee says hello to me. What's up, Lee? But she also says hi to all of you.
Hi.
Hi, Lee.
Hey, Lee. Good
Super
to hear you.
fan Lee. We're excited. We're excited to be here, everyone. That's right. That's right. Hey, and so if those of you tuning in for the first time, this is Crossing the Streams, and we are live on YouTube. The link's kind of scrolling below, and we are live on Facebook. And so just go to YouTube, search The Jeff Dwoskin Show, and we're here every Wednesday at 9:30 Eastern Time. We've got so many amazing shows to talk about today, and this is our 40th episode.
Oh, hey,
All right.
40 episodes, man.
40 episodes. So we brought in, we kicked out some of the regulars, and we brought in some killer guests. We got some of the best in podcasting. We got Scott
Hey.
Curtis who's with us.
Nice,
Scott
Scotty.
Curtis. And I think you're wearing the same shirt that you are in the picture. Let me go back to that. Yes, I think that is the same.
It's the same collar.
It's got a
This has
collar.
got a collar. Yeah.
Well, you went details. Scott, tell everyone about your podcast and where we can find you. Plug away,
Yeah,
sir.
it's called Behind the Bits, and I call it a serious talk about stand-up comedy, where I interview working comedians. They don't necessarily have to be famous, but working comedians that have either done well in comedy or gone on to write for stage and screen, or started a really cool podcast like Jeff Dwoskin did. So yeah, I'm putting out my 80th episode this week, so I didn't even know I could count that high. And that's the thing. I'm behind the bits everywhere, even on the TikTok. I don't do many videos, but I'm on it. Except for Twitter, then that is at the BTBPC.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we have another
Yeah.
we have another
Look at that.
podcast extraordinaire, the very handsome and outlined Bryan Green.
Woo!
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you inviting me back. I'm very excited to have another invitation to come to Crossing the Streams. I had a lot of fun last time.
Yeah. Tell everyone about the commercial break.
Commercial break is me and my friend Chrissy Hoadley. We spend 60 to 90 minutes taking a break from reality and often to absurdity. We cover topics like Bigfoot hunters or swingers or people who marry bridges or other inanimate objects, bad singers, and then general banter back and forth between two lifelong best friends. So if you're into idiotic improv comedy, then join us at The Commercial Break, youtube.com/The Commercial Break, anywhere you can find podcasts, and at The Commercial Break on Instagram. We just reached 100 episodes, Scott, so you're right around the corner, my friend, and it's a great accomplishment to be up in that number. Not many podcasters make it that far, so congratulations to you.
That's amazing.
Guys, I'm at 70.
You're there. You're almost
it's
there.
impressive. You guys are.
There. I'm right behind Scott Curtis. I'm crawling in.
I'm amongst
I think
some very
anything-
impressive people.
I think if you do better than 12, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Oh,
They say that
Casey,
7 is the
Ryan
number.
Plott is here. 7. Yeah, pod fade. Yeah.
Hey, Brian, can I just ask? Did you say you covered swingers, like the actual sexual proclivity?
The sexual proclivity. Yes, we did. We've covered swingers. We've covered a lot of different sexual proclivities. sometimes I have a little sex fever and I just go on a couple episodes. But I find stuff on the internet. I dive deep and I find kind of the absurd things that people are doing. We stay away from any kind of serious news whatsoever.
And we'll talk about this another time. But when we moved to this neighborhood 17 years ago in Southeast Michigan, we moved right into a swinging community, and we had no idea.
We talk about this.
Wow.
Yeah.
We had no idea
about this.
And
Here's an
we were
interesting thing.
slowly hinted by neighbors about it. True
Pink
story.
flamingos? The pink flamingos?
No, a potted plant on your porch.
There you go.
Oh, please,
And then-
everybody has potted plants.
No,
Ryan
this was
and
a
I are
particular-
in a group, and we talked about it, and they were like, if you have pineapples. And so it was a joke.
Yes.
We have pineapples upside down. So we happened to be in the supermarket, so I put a pineapple upside down. I didn't tell my wife, and we just started walking around. No one was interested. No one.
I think you have to be in the certain supermarket where that is a thing.
Okay.
But Ron, in a future episode, I'm going to have on a couple known as the Accidental Swingers on Instagram, and they're going to give us the full rundown of all the ins and outs of swinging in neighborhoods, so to speak.
Well, you'll have to ping,
Jerry's
you'll have to
calling,
ping
Jerry's
that.
calling your BS.
I will.
I will say that here we got a few. Lee, Superfan Lee, is caught onto the commercial
Oh, lovely.
break.
Thank you.
All right, so awesome. And then Jerry wants to point out your 90s horror background. Very cool. And thank you for the 4. We got some 40th wishes, so that's cool. Yeah, so yeah, that's funny with the pineapple thing. I tell you that though, there's no stories that end well. There's no
true.
stories that end well.
My personal opinion is that the polyamorous just really is French for my marriage isn't working, but that's just my personal opinion, and I don't think that many of those stories end well either. Just from
Speaking of stories that end well, last week's episode,
Nice segue.
episode 39. That's right. There's 39, soon to be 40 hours of Crossing the Streams on YouTube. So many great shows that you can watch. So last week we talked about Willy's Wonderland. If you're into Nicolas Cage, this seemed to be like a wild Nicolas Cage ride. I talked about Bob Ross, Happy Accidents, Betrayal, and Greed. Basically, the summary of that was it should have been called Bob Ross Didn't Know How to Set Up His Estate Plan. Made You.
I just watched that last night. I agree with you.
Yeah, Made You Look is which one was Made You Look? Oh, that was about fake art. So yeah, we had a big art episode.
Yep.
Deceptive Practice is about the actor Ricky Jay. The photo there makes it look like a serial killer. He's actually a very famous actor. It was great. And then Ron took us through Amanda Knox, which was very cool. And then today, just to kind of give you a sneak peek, we're going to talk about Only Murders in the Building, which is an ongoing show on Hulu. We're going to flash back to The Americans. We're going to talk about Toast of London. And with 9/11 right around the corner, the anniversary, Ron's going to talk about Turning Point, which is a documentary show on Netflix. Yep. So yay for all those wait, what did you just say you saw? Bob Ross.
I watched Bob Ross, and I thought that it was an extremely interesting insight into Bob Ross himself. and his family, but it seems like a legal dispute. There wasn't much of a hook, right? It's like it's just a legal.
Well, they
dispute.
tried really hard to make a hook.
They tried really hard to make it interesting. I know Melissa McCarthy was one of the executive producers on that, and I don't know. I thought I expected more drama. With
they gave it the clickbait headline, and then they kind of make it seem like they'll sue us. They'll sue us if we talk. We couldn't get anyone to talk to us.
We couldn't get anyone to do it. Yeah.
And like 3/4 of the way through, you find out they would have sued you because they legally acquired it.
Yeah, they legally have the right to do so.
And it's just everyone's unhappy about it. It's like unhappy isn't how that. Sir, I contest to this. Why? I'm extremely unhappy about it.
Yeah. Was it less about him personally and just more about the state of affairs after his death? Or
it was a lot. There's a lot about him.
A good chunk of it was about Bob Ross and him personally and the people who knew him and seemed like Bob Ross was kind of, you saw what you got, right? He was that person on and off screen. And it was interesting to learn where he started and how he came up. But at the end of the day, there's an estate dispute, but there's really no dispute. Bob Ross effectively signed away his image, his likeness, and all of his paintings to a couple that had taken him on early as business partner and kind of worked their way through it. And then there were some other business that he left a little bit of his estate to his son and to another gentleman who helped him later on in his career. But that gentleman who had the rights to that small portion of the estate then also signed his rights to the same people. And they went to court a couple of times and both times they lost. So it seems like it's just kind of a non-starter. It's like, although you feel bad for the son who made absolutely no money off his father's
right. You feel bad, but
yeah, you feel bad.
Anybody who's ever been in a lawsuit, it's not based on feelings, and it's not even based on justice. It's like avoid all. Yeah. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. I am just really stoked that before we got started, I see that you use one of those knobbies on your phone, and I'm trying to decide if I need a knobby or not because I'm dropping my phone a lot because I have a series of small strokes all day. So
I have a TikTok one. I also keep a $10 bill on my phone just in case. Yeah. And I think they're great. One is because it's great if you're holding it and you're walking. So it can kind of secure, but it also, if you set it down, you can have it like it's like a little TV. You know what I mean? You can set it and do that. But I think I do a lot where I'm like my arms off the bed and I'm kind of, so I don't wake up my wife with the light. You know what I mean? Like in the morning. And so it makes it really helpful to be able to hold it like that. Well,
that's great. So, you guys pushed me over the edge. I'm going to get me.
You can order a behind the bits one. I have
commercial break ones. Yeah.
Oh, Scott, just in case you're wondering, they're called pop sockets.
I
know we're not around the term a little bit, but it is a pop socket.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm too lazy to brand. So I'll probably get I'll get a commercial break one. That way I can
I'll send you one, Scott. Products. Just give me your address. I'll send you one of the 30 that we've yet to get.
Yeah. I did want to. When we had Fred Carroll on a while ago, he talked about Mayor of Easttown, and I finally watched it. Wow, did we go through that quick too? And it was great. I thought it was so good. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen Mayor of Easttown, it's definitely worth. And I got to tell you, I was like, they told me that you're not going to figure it out. And I was like, didn't.
You didn't figure it out?
Well, don't tell me. You probably figured it out.
No.
Figuring it out 5 minutes before they tell you isn't figuring it out.
Not at first, but toward like the second to last episode, I was like, I suspect. And my wife and I were watching it. And I mean, honestly, I think I just got lucky.
Well, yes. So we won't, no spoilers, but Mayor of Easttown is totally worth checking out. Okay, but let's go into a new one for today. I had the pleasure of watching Only Murders in the Building. So this is, if you haven't been watching TV, then you probably haven't seen that Steve Martin and Martin Short have been everywhere. Like so much to the fact that I thought this show had been out a month and a half before it even came out on Hulu. So it's a brand new show. they release 3 episodes, and then the 4th one and new ones every Tuesday. I'm just, there's no spoilers, but I don't think there's really, it's not at the point where you can really do much spoilers, but one spoiler is it's delightful. It is so good. First of all, Steve Martin and Martin Short together are two of the funniest people. You can tell they're genuinely great friends. They bounce off each other, and it's funny, but when you watch them in interviews, they kind of rip on each other. And Martin Short's character does that to Steve Martin in the show too. Steve Martin characters doesn't do it as much back, just because that's the character. But it's so good. It is so good. So here's the premise. They all it's Martin Short, Steve Martin, and Selena Gomez. Selena Gomez is delightful. She is actress most known for Wizards of Waverly Place. She's also most known in the Dwoskin household as my daughter Emma's obsession when she was younger. She went as Selena Gomez for Halloween, and I once spent a large fortune doing a meet and greet. This is how much my daughter loved her. Did a meet and greet with Selena Gomez, and we went and I saw her, I think it was second row. We had second row seats to see Selena Gomez in concert. But here's the thing of note. This is, so the opening act was a very talented person named Christine Grimes. I hope I'm saying her name right. And so Christine Grimes went on to The Voice. She was one of those people that was kind of discovered on YouTube. And so she opened for her. And I remember because I was able to look back because I took a picture, and there was, but this is her story ended extremely tragic. She was doing a show, fan or whatever, crazy fan or whatever, comes up to her after a show and kills her, like after a show. This was maybe, I don't know, a few years. I mean, it was a few years ago, but it was like, but anyway, so little side note, I happen to of all the random people in the world seen her live. So anyway, so Infatuation with Selena Gomez. So I'm a big fan. I loved her, but in this, she's actually a much more mature actress and definitely holds herself with Steve Martin and Martin Short. So that kind of says all you really need to know in terms of the synergy between the three of them is really great. So the funny part about this show is it's all about podcasting, but I saw an interview with them. And the interesting thing is when they had conceptualized the show and started making the show, podcasting hadn't really boomed yet, right? Like if you think of like podcasting it's probably not as big as it's going to be, but right now podcasting with the Joe Rogans and all that, it's at a higher point than it's been in the past. So the whole show kind of circles around the three of them, and there's a murder in their building. The clever thing is they then decide we're only gonna, and they're all hooked. Their thing that pulls them together, they're all hooked on the same true crime podcast. Okay, so they're all fascinated with it. So they realize the new episode comes out, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Oh, and they realize this bond they have. They listen to this true crime podcast. So then there's a murder in their building. They live in this real huge New York apartment. I can't remember the name of it, but and so there's a murder in the building. So they decide they're going to do a murder podcast. So they realize that they're at the cusp of the beginning of a murder, and how many podcasts really do it, right? Because most of the true crime podcasts coming in after the murder years later and kind of recapping it. So it's about them trying to solve the murder while doing a podcast on their attempt to solve the murder. But the interesting thing about this is it was created by Steve Martin and Josh Hoffman. The characters are so nuanced and deep, and it's, they're all kind of lonely characters, and they come together, and so they're doing this thing, and there's like these nuances that are slowly coming out, and they're very well written characters. It's really, really an interesting show, and so you can easily catch up on it. There are 30-minute, 33-minute episodes, tons of great guest stars. Sting was the guest star as one of the people that lived in the building. And so I definitely recommend it. It's been really great. Tina Fey is now the voice of that said podcast. And the interesting thing is they kind of flash forward and then they flash back, and it's like they do some really cool stuff with this show. It's very,
How many episodes is it, Jeff?
It's 4 in. I don't know how many total. I'm assuming there'll be 8 or 12, like a normal season would be. But there's only 4 that are available right now, so you can easily catch up and then kind of ride the train. But it's definitely something you should watch.
And where is it, Jeff? I'm sorry, I missed
It's
that
on
part.
Hulu.
Hulu.
It was actually debuted as Hulu's #1 like comedy of all time. It was the biggest debut ever. Now, granted, they put a ton of money,
into it. Yeah,
I don't think there was a place you could go where you didn't see a preview for this movie. And Martin Short and Steve Martin together went on, I think, every show in the world. They were just on Howard Stern. He just came back. Otherwise, I'm sure they would have done it before.
That's right, he did.
But the two of them are so funny. Martin Short's character is funny, but he's also deep. Selena Gomez is great. It's really, really good. I'm not saying it's Ted Lasso feel like that, but in terms of like putting them right next to each other on the shelf and as like just good, enjoyable shows to watch, definitely check out Only Murders in the Building. The title is funny because they're like, we can do multiple crimes, and they're like, let's just do Only Murders in the Building. That's okay.
So Jeff, two things right off the bat. So first off, when the name Only Murders in the Building came out, like, and I knew nothing about the show, like I'm the movie Road to Perdition. I'm a huge fan of that movie, and Paul Newman's big line in that movie, you may remember when they're all accusing each other of murder. Paul Newman says to everybody, all the mobsters in the room, there's only murders in this room. Right. And so that was the big line of Road Perdition. So I thought it was going to be like a darker show than what you're describing because of the Paul Newman Road to Perdition thing.
There's a darkness to it in that there's a murder and there's some potential dark backstories, and the characters are kind of nuanced. But it's a comedy. It's funny. Yeah. It's fun. Martin Short's a hoot.
I do believe I do. I'm aligned with CRP, who in the comments just now talked about big Selena Gomez fan. I am a huge Selena Gomez fan. I think she is a huge talent, and she was great in The Big Short, and I think she does great in all of her acting cameos. And she's a great talent to hang with those two icons like she did. That's amazing.
It's nice for episode 40 to have the CRP back. And I convinced him, so that's good. Yeah, I like Selena Gomez too. Look, Wizards of Waverly Place. If you grow up at if your kids are of a certain age, you watch certain shows growing up, and the way Disney works is like once you miss one, like I doubt Bryan, if you have young kids right now, they're not going to know what Hannah Montana was or anything like that. But we kind of rode the wave of Hannah Montana, of Wizards of Waverly Place. Good Luck Charlie was actually one of my favorites. I had a crush on the mom, but so those those are the ones that we enjoyed. So I love, like, if you go back and watch Wizards of Waverly Place, which I think they're even considering rebooting, it's great. It's a fun show, for those type of shows. But in terms of flashbacks, Blue's Clues. So Steve. Is it Steve? Steve, right? From Blue's Clues, the original host has a video out, and it's a freaking tearjerker. It's if you watch it, it's great. It's he lost all his hair, so he wears a hat, but he looks good. It's really good. It kind of explains him leaving and kind of offers closure for that quick, abrupt exit he made 20 years ago. So anywho, what do we got here? You should rename the podcast Only Selena Gomez Fans.
I didn't pipe up as a Selena Gomez fan because I hadn't heard, I don't even know who she is, except for I'm watching the same show you are, Jeff. I'm watching Only Murders in the Building because I saw Steve and Martin together on stage.
So tell me what you think. Tell me what you think.
I like it the same as you. I think they do really good. Honestly, this is the only thing I've seen Selena Gomez in.
She's been in some movies and stuff. I tell you, if you guys like Steve Martin and Martin Short, I mean, there's a million things you can watch. But their recent collaboration, there's a Netflix special. Yeah, it's great. It's great. The two of them together.
I think the show I saw was the kind of the practice for that Netflix special.
Ah,
Yeah.
very
Interesting.
cool. Very cool.
It's
All right.
amazing how many big stars have come out of kid shows, you know, in Disney and whatnot. It's just it is, if you go through the list of players out there, it is amazing how many of them got their start in Disney and other child shows. So,
Yeah.
Ron,
Yeah.
isn't there a show out there that's on right now that has Punky Brewster, the young Soleil Moon
Yeah,
Frye?
but it got canceled.
took-
They
It
didn't
got
renew
canceled?
it. They rebooted
really?
Punky Brewster. They made
No. I'm
pick
not
it up
talking
in
about
another
that.
channel.
She apparently had a video camera everywhere she went from the time
Oh,
that she
yeah.
started
Didn't you
Punky
Yeah,
Brewster,
yeah,
and
yeah.
she was with Disney for a while, and so
Right.
she had a short run documentary series where she broke out all those hours of videotape, culled through them, and then also interviewed a lot of the old Disney stars who maybe didn't and did make it so far, and kind of talked about the Disney factory, right?
It's
The
prolific.
machine that is.
Justin Timberlake, Christina Aguilera, and Britney Spears all came from the Mickey
all
Mouse
came from
Club.
that. And so my kids
Annette
love
Funicello.
Do you guys? I'm sure you don't remember the animated show Pound Puppies, but it was a big show back then. You know, a million years
Oh,
ago.
Oh yeah,
And-
Pound Puppies,
and-
of course. Yeah.
Right. And so my kids, when they were little, watching it, and so I just caught it just a little bit ago. It was on one of the Cartoon Networks, and that's friggin' Aaron McCormick from Will and Grace. Like that's where he got his start at Pound Puppies. And I'm like, there's major stars out there that got their start doing kids shows. So I'm just, it's amazing.
Speaking of kid shows, let's talk about Toast of London.
You got to be picking on me, man. Toast of London. Yeah. So Toast of London is a show that I started watching, I don't know, maybe about a month and a half ago. It's written by Matt Berry, who you may know from IT Crowd, or currently What We Do in the Shadows, which is an FX show based about vampires who live in Staten Island. And Matt Berry is a British comic who wrote a television show about kind of a self-aggrandizing actor in London who runs around to various auditions trying to get various parts that he's clearly not qualified for, and ended up taking, kind of second-rate jobs everywhere, including a lot of voiceover acting where he's just made fun of constantly. He likens himself to a coxman, but he's really not. And so he ends up kind of, stepping all over himself when he's trying to get with the ladies. And he's got a cast of characters around him that I just think is second to none. Listen, it's British humor, no doubt. It's absurd, no doubt. Oftentimes he breaks out into song for no particular reason, like an actual song, like the music starts playing, he's in a music video, all of a sudden there's a song that almost seems like they're trying to be serious. Like the song is not funny. It's not some kind of improv comedy. It's a serious song that he's now singing for 3.5 minutes during the episode. But each episode lives on its own. You don't necessarily need to see the last one to see the next one. He's got a counterpart that is, he calls him Ray fucking Purchase, who's like the other actor who doesn't really, who thinks too much of himself and runs around, and they oftentimes battle for parts. And each episode to me I just found it ball-bustingly funny. I am a big fan of British humor, first of all. Second of all, I'm a huge fan of those kind of Michael Scott type characters, those Dwight Schrute type characters who are just, they think they're more than they really are. And they, despite all credible evidence to the contrary, they just keep going with their own opinion of themselves, even when people are clearly telling them that that's different. And I think it's so well played by Matt Berry. And there are laugh out loud moments, I think every 5 to 10 minutes in these episodes. And so for me, in a very serious time, the pandemic and everything that's going on, right? All of us are stressed out and things are stressful. I found this to be a fresh air on a nightly basis. I would watch an episode or two before I went to bed. And now so the whole, after a few episodes, I think when they get into season 2, there's 4 seasons, started in 2012. It was on BBC. And then it went to Sky, and then it came over to Netflix. I think it's actually ending on Netflix soon, and then it's going to be with IFC. But around like the end of the first season, beginning of the second season, each episode begins with the character Toast, Stephen Toast, inside of a audio booth doing some kind of recording for voiceover work, right? And so one of the episodes starts, and he goes, "The end," and then there's someone on the other, and then there's 2 young guys on the end of the glass, right? And the guy goes, it's, he looks over and then they're talking behind the glass so they can't hear him. Then he presses the button and he goes, Steven, we like that. We like that take. We're just wondering if you could do it, I don't know, maybe a little less energy. And he's like, the end. So this goes on for like 2 minutes and he ends up screaming the end like a million times. But I don't know, the bravado of the character and the totally unnuanced way that he plays it is just really laugh out loud funny. And I think anybody who has an opportunity to watch it, who has 27 minutes to catch up and get a good giggle, this is the show for you. And listen, I have a podcast that also deals with kind of absurd, ridiculous humor, so I'm attracted to that kind of television show. But Toast apparently has done very well on Netflix. Ball busting, yeah. And and I think that I think it's a great show. And and so what I wanted to say was, I lost my train of thought. What I wanted to say was, they now have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to Stephen Toast's voiceover work. So there's a YouTube channel where it's just purely audio, and it's new. It's essentially their new episodes of Stephen Toast, but now they're just on YouTube as the audio version of what he was doing inside of those booths. And I can't wait to catch up on it. I just read about it today, and I think it's going to be really funny. The end.
That's cool. And
Definitely going to have to check it out.
You got a Casey Ryan plot convinced. So that's, can't get
nice.
He liked my alliteration of ball-bustingly British humor.
And brilliant. Bryan, did you by chance... I did a review several episodes back about Frank of Ireland on Amazon on Prime. Have you caught that show yet?
No, but someone sent that to me, believing that it was my type of comedy. They sent it to me. I just haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
That's exactly why I brought it up, because based on everything you just said, I think it's right up your alley with the kind of insane silliness of British humor. I think you would like Frank of Ireland.
Okay, I'm gonna check it out because I'm done with Toast. Yeah. I'm toast with Toast.
You're toast.
Yeah, I like Monty Python and Kath and Kim, and I like a lot of those kind of off-kilter, ridiculous comedies. For me, it just turns my brain off. In a world that's very serious, I like to do it in that way.
Did you ever see?
That's very serious.
Did you ever see John Cleese's funeral speech of I forget which Monty Python member died.
I did. I know I forgot who the member is, but I did. Yeah.
I mean, he just slayed as a stand-up at a funeral. I mean, people were crying tears of laughter at this, and it's just only the British could do it at a funeral like that, and it's certainly John Cleese.
I think the only other eulogy that I've heard that would be close to as funny is Howard Stern's eulogy of Joan Rivers, which starts off with a joke that is way too racy to say here. But it was good. It was 15 minutes of pure comedy.
I'll have to look for that.
I will say I got some good laughs when I did the eulogy for my dad's funeral.
Jeff, you did.
Did you actually make it funny?
It was funny.
Yeah, and it was probably the biggest crowd I ever played to. There were literally 1,500 people there. And I remember walking up, and it was hot. It was
I know what you're gonna say.
I walk up and I turn to the guy who runs the funeral. I go, "What? We didn't pay for the air conditioning package?" And like everyone laughed. So that kind of just opened the door, right? And it was anyway. I don't want to go into that, but yeah, that's great. It's the best time. That's when people want to laugh, because I know firsthand people came up to me. They're like, it helped us get through it, So nobody wants to hear the sad, generic stories.
My question is, though, did you get 50% of the door?
I was supposed to get a bottle of water. I never even got that. All right, let's
get 50% of the estate.
Yeah. That I did. Let's talk about The Americans. This is a show that I am excited to hear about, Scott, because I've always kind of wanted to watch this show. I hear it's good, but let's hear it.
Yeah. I saw. So when this first came out, this came out in 2013, did 5 seasons, and I watched a few episodes by myself, and because my wife was watching something else, and then I decided as I was watching it that this would be good for us to watch together, so I didn't watch anymore, and then I forgot about it, and never watched any more seasons, and then it showed up on Amazon Prime, so I pulled it up and didn't remember much of it, but it's a really cool show, and it makes me wonder, how much of it could actually be true, because it's weird. It's during the Reagan years. Cold War is just at its peak, and these two KGB trained agents come to America, or they're in America. That kind of opens with them there, with they're fake married, but they've got two kids that are real and being raised as American kids. And they have all these missions they got to do, and it's always impossible missions. And there is a lot of graphic sex and violence, probably too much for the show. They could just allude to things rather than go right into it. But anyway, there's a lot of intrigue there. FBI agent moves next door or across the street from him, and he becomes a big part of it. He tries to turn a woman that works for the KGB head there at the diplomacy place, and it's just, there's so much to it. There's so many layers that, watching it, especially because we just got through season 1 and we're about 2 episodes into season 2. Just going through it, I'm really hooked because I want to know what happens, and I hope they tied it up well, because if they didn't, I'm going to be pissed.
They did.
Okay.
Yep, they did. They did.
Okay, so you guys have
did.
seen it.
Yes.
I stopped watching it after season 2 because she cut her hair and it ruined the whole thing for me.
Kerry Washington.
Carrie Russell.
Russell.
Carrie Russell is
Carrie
the
Russell, I'm sorry.
sexiest. I
Oh my gosh.
love her in that show, and
She's a
I think she does a
dreamboat.
great job. It is a little bit gratuitous. I will agree with you on that, but I don't mind. she's
when she's in there's a lot of butt there, and it's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. Is it necessary, all of it? I don't think so.
So I'll say this about the Americans without giving anything away, Jeff. It does suffer from the same thing. For those of you who watched Ozark and other shows like it, there's only so much stress you can put on your audience before they start kind of, it actually reverses the interest. And Ozark suffers from that same thing. Every single show, you're exhausted by how close they came to, being caught or being killed or whatever. And that's my only criticism of the Americans, because I always feel like they're so close to, things going wrong for them.
I think it's a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say that's one of the reasons I can't rewatch Breaking Bad. Though I feel like I loved Breaking Bad.
Same thing.
The way through. But some of those episodes, when I think back to the episode where they were trying to get rid of that body and they were using the thing in the tub in that house, and it was like, when I think, I can't even imagine sitting through that hour again. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's certain episodes of that show. I couldn't, I don't think I could. I did it once and I enjoyed that ride 100%. And I think everyone should take it, but it's just, it's not a show I can rewatch.
I think it's such a fair point, Ron, that you make, that that every episode bends you to the point of breaking, almost, right? Almost every single episode. There's a few filler episodes here and there. The characters are so well developed. You feel like you know these characters and you're so invested in what's happening that every episode becomes a real ride. But I think, like Breaking Bad, I watched it once, and even though it's everywhere, it's so available for me to watch again, and it's in my top 3 shows of all times, as is The Americans. I don't choose to go back and do that again because I took that ride. I liked the way that it made me feel. I was okay with the way that it ended. Same with The Americans. And each episode, the way that it unraveled, I was so emotionally invested in. I know that I won't be that way a second time around. So I'm just choosing, like, it's not the moment. It's not the time for me to go back around. So I almost enjoyed the fact that it kind of stressed me to break it. Like, I knew there was not going to be a boring episode of The Americans. Now, I'd say in season 3 or 4, there are a couple episodes I'm like, oh, okay, didn't we do this like in episode 2 and episode 1?
Yeah.
But I think The Americans is a true gem of U.S. television creation, no doubt.
And I
Except for
came-
the butt. Too much butt.
Yeah, well, a little bit too much. And it came 2013 was when there was such a proliferation. It really started, like, everybody had a good show on TBS, AMC. Everybody had a good show, and there was no way that unless you watch TV 18 hours a day that you were going to keep up with all that stuff. And you had to pick. And I don't remember which one I picked. I don't know. It might have been Longmire or something like that. Anyway, but yeah, I watched, we picked one and we watched that together. And now we're, through the magic of streaming TV, I just don't care if I miss something anymore. It's just like, it's always going to be there. So I'll watch it when I watch it. So, and the fact that this is a period piece, you don't really get taken out of it. Cause even 2013, was different than it is now, pre-COVID and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't take you out of the period because you're in the Reagan period anyway. So it's not like it's ever going to be dated. It's because it's playing on history.
I think you make a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, you make a good point.
Too.
Yeah. The Americans was like the show I didn't watch just because I was already maxed out. I remember people talking about it, but I didn't catch Breaking Bad at first either. And we ended up with Breaking Bad. I think we talked about this, Scott, maybe. Breaking Bad, I watched with my wife. We caught up and then watched the last 8 episodes live, like as they were actually airing. So, and I got to say, like, there's something about binging and not watching things when they actually happen that I feel makes it a little easier to watch. Like, for example, Breaking Bad, where even like, I remember thinking back to The Sopranos, and I think we talked about this. There was so much time in between seasons of The Sopranos in those later years, I'd forget the show was even on still. And so by the time a show comes back, and the streaming channels were always bad at this, or getting a little better at this now, there was no recaps. Yeah. There was nothing like, if you waited a year and a half to see The Sopranos, there was nothing that reminded you what happened. And like you would only, and think about that in the terms of like the streaming, how we watch TV now, right? A new season, if this Only Murders in the Building had just come out and they put all 10 episodes out, or all the Ted Lassos were out at the same time, the majority of people would watch that 6 hours, 8 hours within 7 days, right? The new episode the new series wouldn't come out for 300 more days. Right. So it's like you don't even remember some of the nuances and the things that happen because you watch it so fast. But the nice thing about watching
is why that these streaming platforms are choosing to roll them out to a la carte television style is because they want to keep the PR going. They want to bring back a little of that appointment television, appointment streaming that's going on.
I think it's always a mistake when they new shows that they don't create the events. You know what I mean? Like every Wednesday people are talking about What If, the new Marvel show, and every Friday people talk about the new Ted Lasso show. If you put everything out in the same week, which Netflix has done, right? They'll put out this huge new show and then literally 7 days later nobody's talking about it again. Right? It's like, why wouldn't you? Like that's the beauty of like these Marvel shows. Loki, people talked about Loki for 2 months. 2.5 months as they kind of stretched it out, all those shows, right? So to me, it's also like you can't have a conversation because if you have 8 hours of TV available to you and you're in episode 6 and Ron's on 4 and Scott's finished and I'm halfway through, Scott can't talk to any of us because he watched it so fast. He can't remember what happened in episode 1, 2, 3, or 4, and he'll accidentally give something away, or it makes it impossible to have conversations and the fun of guessing what's coming next. You know, it just takes all that away. So I enjoy the slow burns. That's me.
And
That's me.
and I think the whole releasing the entire series thing, I think it's almost like a standoff now. It's like, who's going to be the first one who is smart enough to get away from this and go back to the weekly episodes, and nobody has enough guts to do it. But you know, Steve and Martin Short, you know, they are doing it. So there was another show that just recently
Well,
came
the
out that did that.
Mandalorian was doing the same thing, wasn't it? They
Was
were
that-
releasing
okay.
on a weekly.
Yeah, they
basis.
did weekly. They do weekly.
Yeah. Scott,
yeah.
I wanted to follow up on what you said a second ago about that it's okay to miss things, and I'll just say that the technology and the algorithms now are so good, and they're so accurate about reminding you of what you've missed, and things that it predicts accurately, I might add, of what you're going to like. And like Apple TV is fantastic at that.
Yeah.
They keep
And
telling me to watch the Snoopy show.
is that right?
Wait, I don't want to rob Scott Curtis of his Casey Ryan plot Convinced. So I didn't want to rob you of that.
Thanks, CRP.
Summarize our best experience once. I agree.
Agreed.
I agree. I did it.
No, I did watch Breaking Bad. I watched Breaking Bad twice.
Yeah.
I watched it twice all the way through. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And
it's still heartbreaking when I think of him killing what's her name? Ritter.
Oh yeah.
The girl.
Yeah.
Like, some of those things stand out, like, wow.
Turning points. His slow walk to drug kingpin.
So much.
As it was described. Yeah.
All right, let's lighten things up here and talk about
the
turning point, 9/11 and the War on Terror.
Yeah,
History casts a long shadow.
I thought it was appropriate given this week, and I'm sorry to end on a dark note, you guys, because it is a dark chapter that's reflected on Netflix, and Netflix continues to do a great job with docuseries and documentaries in general. And here we are again, this one, Turning Point 9/11 and the War on Terror. It's a 5-part docuseries directed by Bryan Knappenberger, who's a pretty well-known documentarian. It's an examination of 9/11. And listen, there are some fantastic 9/11 documentaries out there. So I am not at all suggesting that this is in any way a better, replacement for some of the great 9/11 docuseries that have been out there, like the Nat Geo, and there was a Frontline version, and there's been some great documentaries out about the events of 9/11. But that's not what this is. What I really think is powerful about this is it is a documentary that focuses more on the lead up and the conditions that created 9/11 and the moment that America changed. Not just because of the attacks. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that up until 9/11, the focus was the residual Cold War that existed between us and Russia, and the superpower race and the economic race that was going on, and American materialism that was just booming through the 80s and 90s. And 9/11 changed the American system, particularly of how we view threats. From what went, from a Cold War mentality to now a fundamentalist terrorism mentality. And that represented an absolute shock to the system for the United States defense mechanism, but also a shift to the political world of how we ascertain threats and respond to them in a modern world post 9/11. That's what this documentary focuses on. And I will tell you, the 5 parts, the first 2 focus specifically on how poorly we miscalculated the Russian invasion of Afghanistan and the arming of the Mujahideen and the rebels that Osama bin Laden helped to fund and to build a coalition against, which formed the base for Al Qaeda. And we so poorly miscalculated religious fundamentalism versus nationalism. America is so set on nationalism, where we are America, where they are Russia. We believe that that's the race. And the truth is the Islamic extremism and fundamentalism, that's a completely different game that they're playing than that we were prepared for, that we didn't understand, that we miscalculated, and frankly, right under our noses, allowed Osama bin Laden and his organization and folks that were right here in the United States to exist and thrive and build and create the threat that right until the very end, right up to 9/11, we had underestimated. And, I will tell you, just having lived through 9/11, as we all have, it at the time, as an American, I can't say that I ever, like, I wasn't seeing news flashes on NBC News or whatever saying, "Hey, we're about to be attacked," or that we knew about the extremism, or excuse me, the attacks in Kenya and Tanzania, and the attack on the USS Cole, but those were someplace else. We never considered that attack on the homeland, right? It never crossed any of our minds, and it was so bold and so complicated and well designed. And you hate saying that about a terror group, but it really was. And so that's what's interesting about this documentary, is that it's not a very good documentary when it comes to the events of 9/11 itself, but it is an excellent documentary about talking about the conditions left by the United States in Afghanistan and other places that allowed Al-Qaeda to build into what it became, and frankly, fundamentalism everywhere in the world that still exists today. And that's the turning point for the United States, and it's probably more true today than it ever has been. So it's worthwhile. It's good.
I'm sold. I want to watch it. Did they talk about the power vacuum that's left in Iraq after the first
100%.
First Gulf War, and the conditions upon which that. Okay,
So they talked very specifically about how Osama bin Laden capitalized on the imperialist view of us going into traditional Islamic lands like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait in response to Saddam Hussein. I mean, it's a worst case scenario. Saddam Hussein invading Kuwait was exactly what Osama bin Laden and other fundamentalists needed to be able to point a finger at the U.S. and coalition forces, to be able to say, look, this is what we're talking about. Western forces in Islamic lands subjugating us and taking our resources. And that's at the core of it. So
I've seen so much footage, and we've seen so many documentaries in so many different ways and perspectives and angles about 9/11 since the attacks, and we're coming up on the 30th anniversary, the 20th anniversary, excuse me.
20th, yeah.
And it leaves a mark every time that you watch those events. I don't think any American that was alive at that time or of a certain age at that time is ever going to forget, because we are emotionally jarred right back to it every time we see those planes hit that tower, or every time we see Rudy Giuliani standing with a megaphone, or George Bush up there. Whatever the image is for you in your own head that really got to you on that particular day or those events. But I find this super fascinating, because I think that if we don't learn from the past, we are doomed to repeat the same events. And I think it was a shock to the system. And even after the World Trade Center was bombed once by a similar fundamentalist organization, we still missed all of the warning signs for the second larger attack. They came to finish the job, right? And we missed all of the warning signs.
Yeah, and it is interesting because they had behind the scenes footage from the White House. And interesting side note, when 9/11 happened, they didn't know where to take President Bush. Like, they talk about that, like on the day of, like, they had nowhere to take him. They took him to Nebraska. They took him to they knocked him around different Air Force bases until they decided Washington was safe.
Didn't he stay in the air for 6 or 7 hours?
He did.
After he left Florida.
He was in the air for quite a bit. So that was interesting. But another interesting thing was they were talking about, something like this. It unifies the country. It unified the Congress, which is already a very fractured place to be. But here we are. We're Americans. No one's Republican or Democrat anymore. But what became a fight was, and I remember this partly, was how much power to give President Bush unilaterally. How much war power do you give a guy to attack? And now who do you attack? Like, because this is a terrorist group. Like, so they of course went after the Taliban and those who harbored and abetted, but it became a bigger issue of this is going to come off as the West attacking Islam, and they knew that. So there was politics involved with this, and listen, not to get into any politics here on this podcast, but for better or for worse, Maxine Waters was the only person in Congress to say, I'm against giving unmeasured powers to President Bush to attack whoever he wants. And that was an interesting thing. It took a lot of courage. She got a lot of death threats for that. And it turned out, that she might have been right. It's depending upon your view on it. So
let's save some for the people so they can watch it.
Yeah, but please check it out. Not for its attack documentary aspects of it, but more about how it built into it. So enjoy it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well said, my friend. Yeah.
Well said, everyone. Well said.
I'm ready.
Great job.
I'm ready to dig into it.
I think this was the greatest 40th episode we could possibly have imagined.
Aww.
Thank you.
Best 40th episode ever.
Next 40th is going to be even better. Thank you guys. Thank you, Bryan and Scott. It's Bryan. Say goodbye and remind everyone where they can find you.
tcbpodcast.com, at The Commercial Break on Instagram, youtube.com/The Commercial Break. Every Tuesday and Friday. We'd appreciate a listen. And thank you, Jeff, for having me back. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
Of course.
It was nice to meet you, Scott and Ron.
Jeff, it's sad that I'm even further from you than I was before, but I'm bringing a blue dot to the south, so I'm doing the Lord's work, I guess. So yeah, the best way to get to me is just go through the website, thebtbpc.com, and then all my social links are there. I'm most popular on Instagram, where I make fun of my own podcast through memes. And 57-year-old guy making memes. Yeah, it's exactly what you expect.
It is good. Ron, say goodnight.
Hey, Jeffy, congratulations, man. 40 episodes is nothing to sneeze at. So congratulations to you.
We did.
I appreciate
Congratulations.
it. And, great job.
All right.
It's a great show, guys. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
We appreciate all of you. And thanks to everyone listening. Definitely check us out. Follow us on the show. Check out Bryan's podcast, Scott's podcast. Check out my podcast, Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show, celebrating it's #1 in the world.
I think these 4 podcasts is all anybody needs. We don't want everybody to have too many podcasts to think about, and I think we cover a lot of different areas here. So
I
just
think between
these 4 podcasts,
the commercial break,
we absorb 99% of traffic around the world on our podcast.
I think so. All right. Thank you, guys. Good. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff Dwoskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff Dwoskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio, Zach Wiseman. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcasts, Live from Detroit, The Jeff Dwoskin Show, The Sal and Bob Show, and Some Nobodies. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.